All right, welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories read here can be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here are the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. A small group of powerful House Democrats has asked the Justice Department to investigate whether tribes are engaging in modern-day racial segregation against black freedmen who are descendants of former tribal slaves. The lawmakers, including House Judiciary Committee Chairman John Conyers of Michigan and former civil rights leader John Lewis of Georgia, say 5 major tribes have been systematically removing freedmen from their membership or relegating them to second-class status without voting rights and other benefits. In a letter, they ask Attorney General Eric Holder to investigate whether the tribes are violating treaties and breaking the law. Over 40 years after enactment of the landmark Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts, there is a place in the United States that African Americans cannot vote or receive federal benefits as a matter of law, the letter says. They are called freedmen, but they are anything but free. Mike Miller, a spokesman for the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, one of the tribes named in the letter, called it sad but not surprising. Cherokee and other tribes have long argued that they simply want to restrict their membership to blood descendants. Renewed efforts to settle long-running disputes over former Hawaiian kingdom lands fell short again this year at the state legislature. The measure proposed a big choice for Native Hawaiians, whether to accept a combination of cash and land to resolve 30 years of arguments over how the state should meet its constitutional obligation to pay revenues from ceded lands, or agree to an enormous global settlement that would have handed over 1/5 of the state's lands. The plan was scuttled when House Finance Chairman Marcus Oshiro decided May 1st that the idea shouldn't be rushed and the state shouldn't commit to such costly payouts. The measure suggested a list of culturally significant lands that the Office of Hawaiian Affairs could choose from to settle the past due claims. OHA could have chosen a combination of land and cash worth up to $200 million, or OHA could have taken the global settlement offer worth around $251 million in cash and 20% of the 1.8 million acres of ceded lands in the state. Those properties could well form the land base for a future Hawaiian nation envisioned under federal recognition legislation pending before the United States Congress. Plans have been in the works now for over 3 years for a federal detention facility on land owned by the southern Arizona's Tohono Oodham Nation. The Arizona Daily Star reported on its website that the plans are discussed in a document released recently by the tribe. The document indicates the facility is proposed for 49 acres of tribal land just north of the community of Sahuarita. Plans call for the facility to have between 750 and 1,500 beds. More than 1,200 residents of the community have signed a petition declaring their opposition to the project. The St. Regis Mohawk are holding a public vote on whether to start up its own tribal electric utility. St. Regis officials say the Northern New York Nation will vote June 6th on whether to leave the national grid power system. Tribal leaders say studies show a tribally operated electrical utility is economically feasible. It would result in a lower delivery rates immediately and protect the tribe from future rate increases while enhancing its sovereignty. Tribal leaders say it will cost about $13.7 million to build a reservation power plant and distribution system. The tribe also would have to pay National Grid a $4.3 million exit fee. About 11,000 residents live on the New York side of the reservation, which straddles the U.S.-Canadian border. Florida's share of expanded gambling at Seminole casinos should go to education. House and the Senate negotiators agreed May 5th as they resumed talks that had been put on hold pending the settlement of a new state budget. Negotiators have yet to decide how much gaming should expand, but linking it to education is expected to help overcome a reluctance by some lawmakers to approve more gambling. "I think it's brilliant," Governor Charlie Crist said after he met privately with Senate's chief gaming negotiator, Ways and Means Chairman J.D. Alexander of Lake Wales, Florida. Crist last year negotiated a gaming compact with the Seminole Nation, but it was blocked by the Florida Supreme Court, which ruled any deal must be approved by the state legislature. Now supported mostly by lottery proceeds, the biggest part of the Education Trust Fund, about $400 million every year, goes to bright futures college and university scholarships based on student grades and entrance test scores. Veterans of the Navajo Nation should have an easier time getting treated for post-traumatic stress order under a new agreement to place social workers on Navajo Nation land. The Navajo Area Indian Health Service and the Northern Arizona Veterans Affairs Healthcare System recently agreed to locate social workers in the Fort Defiance Hospital and the Chinle Veterans Center. Though both facilities are in Arizona, their services likely will be available to any Navajo veteran who needs help. Indian Health Service spokesman Jenny Nota said. About 40% of all combat veterans, or an estimated 25 million U.S. soldiers, experience PTSD, which causes nightmares, flashbacks, and exaggerated, startled responses. George Lawson, a licensed clinical social worker and member of the Veterans Affairs PTSD outreach team, who is based at the Fort Defiance Hospital, said he serves about 20 clients per week, including veterans of World War II and the Korean, Vietnam, and Persian Gulf Wars. The Courte tribe of Idaho has re-elected Tribal Chairman Chief Allen and Normal Jean Louis to the Tribal Council. Allen has been council chairman since 2005. This is going to be his third term on the council. 29-year-old Paulette Jordan was elected to fill the third open seat on the council. Tribal officials say the election had the highest voter turnout of any election over the last 11 years, with over 573 ballots cast. Members of the council serve 3-year terms. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank our underwriters for helping us with this broadcast and you for joining with us again. Miigwech.